Okay, so today we're going to be replacing the LCD on a machine that has a non-cracked glass, but a very messed up LCD screen. This is an A1278 Unibody Macbook. This is the original MacBook, not the Pro. They use the LP133WX2 TLC1 and LP133WX2 TLC2. Not only does that LCD just look like shit compared to the newer ones that get used, but they also have this crap more often than the good ones. I'm not sure how well that shows up in the camera, but you can see this flickering pile of fuck shit right there. So I'm gonna turn it off and get started. Now the first thing that we do is heat the glass. Heat the glass so that the adhesive under it gets a little weaker. I'm using a Hakko FR801 rework station, as I've shown in previous videos. I prefer to use this to a heat gun for one very simple reason, which is I have a very small nozzle so that I can heat this black border area where the adhesive is without heating up this black rubber trim. That black rubber trim, once it gets too hot, it starts to melt and then it malforms, and it's really easily visible to the customer because whatever part malformed is going to reflect light, and then they're going to see that you fucked up their computer, and then they're not going to want to pay for the repair, and you just enter a rabbit hole to hell. And one of the ways I avoid that rabbit hole to hell is by using tools that make life easy for me. So one of the tools that makes life easy for me is using this instead of a heat gun. I can have this thing at a temperature where I can melt solder easily and not damage this black rubber trim at all, because this tip is so precise that there's no heat around it. Like, I could do this all day, I'm not going to burn my finger even if I'm right next to it, because this is a quality tool. It's not some $150 piece of shit knockoff of a real Hakko or Weller tool. It's an actual Hakko tool. And Hakko and Weller are my two favorite producers of soldering equipment and hot air rework stations. So I'm going to keep heating this thing. I'm very patient with my heat. I'm patient with my heat because I'd rather be patient with heat than patient removing little bits of cracked glass after I've fucked up. And so I'm going to go around it nice and slow and heat it up along the black border. You probably should not do what I'm doing, which is touch it to see how hot it's gotten, because obviously you could burn yourself. Usually what I do, and what I should be doing here, is use the LCD as a temperature sensor. I actually do this while the machine is on. I especially do this when I know I'm replacing the LCD and I don't have to care. So the LCD starts to turn colors and blotch, as you can see in this corner here, when it gets hot, and that's how I kind of tell what temperature I'm at on the glass. And obviously if you heat it too much, you get to a point where you are going to leave marks in the glass, and with the LCD, that black mark is going to start turning brownish yellow and it'll never go away. So you don't want to heat too much. But if you don't heat enough, this glass won't come off properly. And the other thing I like about this, since the heat is not coming out all over the place, I don't have to worry about burning this plastic clutch cover that I'm pointing to, or the keys in the keyboard. And again, for those of you who are experienced, you may find it difficult to believe that people can burn the clutch cover of the keyboard. You haven't had a lot of do-it-yourself jobs that people have brought you where it looks like they just put their computer in an easy bake oven. So, alright, now, the next thing I have these little spudgers here that are very, very useful, very convenient. I could not find this anywhere 5-6 years ago when this machine first came out, so I was using this spatula from the Utrecht Art Supply store that you could see in the glass video. First thing I'm going to do, I make sure that my tool is clean. So I heat it to make the removal of any old adhesive very easy. So what I'm doing is I'm holding it in front of my hot air rework station, and then I take this clean room wipe that I have that has alcohol on it, and I get rid of all the old adhesive. The second thing that I'm doing to make my life easier is I'm going to actually dip this thing in alcohol and get a little bit of alcohol under my glass before I start working. I'm just heating this again for good measure. So I have this little cap over here that has a little bit of alcohol in it, and I dip this in there, and I get a little alcohol just around the frame, just around the corner. And then I get in there with my tool. Now, I'm going right in between the glass and the rubber, and I'm going to push on the rubber end as hard as I can, because the rubber is not going to crack. The glass is. So I push as hard as I can on that rubber, and I dig my little tool under there. And again, I'm pushing on the rubber, not on the glass at first, because that's the part that I'm not going to break. And you just get a little bit under there. Now, I'm gonna go nice and slow because it's my 8 in the morning and I'm tired, and I know if I go fast I'm gonna destroy this whole thing, and that's not gonna look good. So I'm gonna go nice and slow. I'm gonna clean my tip again, over and over. Now you can do this much faster. I'll admit that I'm pretty bad at this in terms of ratio of amount of glass that I crack when it's broken to glass that I get off without cracking it. So I'm more cautious than most, just because again I am not by no means good at this whole keep your hand perfectly steady so that you can remove the glass without cracking the thing. I suck at that game. So I'm just putting some alcohol down the side here, make my life easy. And getting back in there. Now here's the part where I'm going to try to keep the camera in view so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Alright. And apply a little bit of heat. I'm going to clean my tool again. I clean this thing religiously as I go. Good morning. It's fucking freezing outside. Wearing short sleeves last week. So you may notice I'm being a little more cautious here than I was in the video where I'm doing the glass. It's because in the video where I was replacing the glass is broken. Whereas here, the glass is not broken. So if I break it, I have to pay for it. Which does wonders for your motivation. Especially back in the day when this was like $90 for one sheet. That was a long fucking time ago. You can buy like really good stuff in the 30s, retail, you know, like crappy stuff in the low 20s. But I still have that habit of not breaking it because it costs money, which is a good habit to have. I'm going around the webcam board, like to here, then around the Bluetooth board, so that's why I'm moving this thing as I go. Now, let's move around here. I'd love to get a better position, but this tripod is limited, and if I move it while it's actually working, there's a chance that it may fall down and I'll have to take 45 minutes to adjust it again. which I really don't want to do. Now what I'm doing here is I'm using my index finger and my middle finger to push this up so that I'm not touching the rubber trim. As I told you, we want to protect this rubber trim from getting scratched or messed up while using my arm to move to the left. And I'm also doing something here that you should take note of, which is if I get a hold of the actual adhesive, just rip that crap off. If you actually get a hold of some adhesive and you get rid of it, the glass will come right off because there's nothing holding it down, which is part of the goal here. Alright, let's get this back in view. My tool is pretty dirty at this point, so I'm gonna keep following my rule and clean it as I go. Add some alcohol to the top here. Let's try to get a more acceptable camera angle, shall we? Another piece of adhesive. Beautiful. Now I'm going to be very careful coming up on this corner because this corner is actually dented. And one of the reasons I really don't want to destroy this piece of glass is because another piece of glass is not going to fit in unless I bang out the corner. And I don't feel like banging out the corner. I don't have to. Got my tool here. Get this in better view. And push down. Now here I got this kind of cool luxury of not having to care if my tool touches the LCD, because I'm tossing that in anyway in a few minutes. junky adhesive here. You'd be surprised how easy it is to crack this even when you're right at the finish line. So don't get impatient just because it's almost done. It's easy to get impatient and excited and crack it. I hope I didn't just jinx it for myself. Pulling on this never really works. You just have to work around the adhesives and it's done. You see how easy it is for this little webcam wire to come out of its hole? You don't want the little webcam wire to come out of its hole. And one of the goals here is to not puncture this thing as you're going around with the tool. You see, so far I haven't punctured it. I did leave a nice mark in the LCD right over here. And if I'm removing the glass and not the LCD, I know I have to be careful, but when I know that I'm removing the LCD, I make no effort to be careful since this is the part, again, that I'm disposing of. So, there's going to be 4 screws on the side. You got one over here. You got one over here. Notice I'm also using this to magnetize my screwdriver. This is what helps keep the computer closed, and I also use it to hold my screws. You can either put this one screw over here, and one over here. So you can either use the side of your table to put your screws, but you're going to lose them, or you can attach them to the computer via magnets. I've always chosen the latter. And now you have 2 screws that are a different size down here. These are smaller, so separate them accordingly. How can I help you? What can I do for you? You'd be looking at $325 plus tax to replace it. It can be anywhere from an hour and a half if we're not busy, or it can be up to a couple of hours in the day if it's really busy. It just depends on the time of day. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, a lot of the time we can. Yeah, like $200, I mean, the part itself is just about, I mean, you'd be lucky to buy the screen by itself for about that much money. But that, unfortunately, no, we don't have that out. You can suck it. Can you do it cheaper? No. Can you come pick it up for me? No. Is it cheaper if I pay cash? No. Fuck off. Alright. Now, why I pick up the phone before opening is beyond me. Alright, so now the LCD is going to pop out. Now, unlike older machines where the cable has some length to it, you can see it, on this machine, when you go to pull it, it's not really going to want to come out. And that's because the cable is right over fucking here. Let's zoom in on this bullshit. You see how good the zoom is on here. How far can I zoom? Alright, let's get this in view. I dare not move this shit tripod. You see this shit? This is all the slack that you have on this fucking machine. I remember the first time I opened one of these in 2008, I could not stop cursing. So, the first step, there's a piece of tape that goes over this entire thing. It's a piece of Captain tape. Captain is like regular Scotch tape, but it's heat resistant. So, we're going to remove that. Then you're going to remove another piece of Captain tape, because sometimes they actually have 2 pieces sitting there instead of 1. You can take that out. And there's a clip holding this. There's a clip that actually goes, this is the first one of the MacBooks to have a clip going over the cable here. So, you can use a set of tweezers, or a flathead screwdriver that's really small. Just disengage that. I tried to disengage it and actually, just snapped out anyway, whatever. As I said, this is garbage. I do not care about this. Now the first thing I'm going to do is try to pull this up a little bit. I want to get some slack on it just so I can actually work. Now do not pull, let me zoom out so you can see what the fuck I'm doing. do not pull on this thing by this little fucking latch. This thing is weak as shit. This little latch that moves back and forth is ridiculously weak. Pull by the cable, preferably by the black, not by the connector. You don't want to pull by the connector because then you're putting stress on the cable, the pieces of the cable that attach to these little pins here. So I pull by the black piece, and then I fold this thing over. Now I'm going to get a screen for this. I'm going to do it back. Alright, got a new screen. So this is the old screen, just for reference, as I guessed, this was the piece of shit LP133 WX2 TLC1. I'm going to be using, as Mikey's hookup would call it, a generic compatible Maywork screen, which is an LTN133AT09. Not only does this have superior image quality and better blacks than that LP133 WX2 piece of shit does, it also has less instances of that random banding that occurs down the middle of the screen. So I very much prefer to use this one as often as possible, especially if it came with that. If you Google that model number, you'll find that there are tons of people that hate it. The LP133, WX2, TLC1, and TLC2. Terrible, terrible screen that should have never been put into a high-end computer. Now, the most miserable part of this entire repair is reattaching this little LVDS cable when you have no slack. Usually when you replace the screen on a computer, you go, oh, doing snap, or snap over here. Here it's like, and it just really sucks. So the first thing that I do, again, I pull on the black piece, black part of the cable to get it up. Then I very, very gently latch it over here. So let me zoom in a little bit. I'm very sorry for the crappy quality of zooming and fucking tripod and workmanship here. Let's see. Oh, you piece of shit. Okay. Let's see if I can zoom a little bit. Alright, so see what I'm doing? Now, I'm trying to get this as straight up as I can so that I can just take the screen, go that, and be done. So, without further ado, I like to slide the right side in of the cable. Now take tweezers or a flathead screwdriver. I do not try to pick. I close my tweezers like so. Like so. Come on, focus. There we go. And I push like this. And I try to push this shit in there from the other side. So I dropped it onto the right side. Then I push with the tweezers, see that? On the left side, so it pushes itself up. Then I flip this little flap over. And you really do not have to do this part. You can totally, absolutely, positively get away with not taping this cable because it's latched into the computer. Also, with how short that is, if anything happens to actually tug this cable out of the computer, this tape is doing nothing. It is there for show. It is not holding it in. I'm just putting it back because I have this severe case of OCD when it comes to putting back together an Apple computer. So this tape, put it right there. This is the same type of tape that was originally in there. It's the orange Captain tape. This is heat-resistant tape. It's like Scotch tape, but it sticks, and I can put this right in front of the hot air rework station at 800 degrees, and this tape is barely going to deform, which is more than I can say for the X-Acto knife. The blade just dropped out. Now, through the beauty of gravity, I'm going to do this, and it's going to come into place. You should not rely on gravity to push that cable into the screen. Don't do that. That is bad. The cable has to be pushed all the way in before you push it down. But it does help that we have gravity there. Now, before we close it, what's the first thing that you think we should do? If the first thing you thought we should do is turn it on to make sure that the shit actually works, you win. So I'm going to turn it on. I hold down the Alt-Option key so that instead of booting into an operating system, it just stays on the screen. And then, you know, it shows up with drives that I can boot from. This way, instead of having to wait for it to boot all the way up and then turn off, I can just turn it off instantly like that. So I have a working screen. Quite happy. And time to put the screws back in. Now I'm getting to my least favorite part of the repair, which is putting the glass back on, and the reason I hate that part of the repair is because it requires that I turn on my air compressor. So I'm going to turn on the air compressor right now. I'm sorry for the noise. In the meantime, I can put my screws back in and clean this glass. Alright, so now the next part. See this little tool? Another tool that did not exist 5 or 6 years ago. It comes in very handy now. How can I help you? Alright, you'd be looking at $325 plus tax. We can usually do it the same day, depending on what you need. Alright, see this little tool? This is a very nice tool that did not exist a while ago. Usually you had to improvise, it was the end of an X-Acto. So what I'm doing here is I'm going around and making sure that there's no old cruddy adhesive. And if I find any, I'm going to scrape it off. See, the difference between your amazing repair and the dude who undercuts you by $15 garbage repair is that yours is never going to come back for the same problem. There's not going to be any of that, oh, I got it done and the glass fell off, or oh, I got it done and it's shaking and wobbling. No, none of that's going to happen with your repair because you are a good technician and you watch the right video. So, and also, you can see that there's this fucking crumbs and shit coming out the side over here, so we're just going to clean that up because that's... People like to eat near their computers. It's not something that we're ever going to be able to change. But so let's clean all the shit out of here. Clean my little tool that I'm using to clean things with. And after I do this, I'm going to go around with my finger just to make sure I don't feel any dumpy old pieces of adhesive. You don't want any of that in my screen cracked again because of you stuff. And the way to be 100% confident when telling people to just get out of here when they say that my screen cracked again and it's because of you, is to do a perfect job the first time. Now I'm also going to remove the adhesive from here. The glass comes with adhesive, and this is the old cruddy shitty adhesive that I've been picking at for the past half hour, that I've been throwing alcohol on. So I'm going to get rid of this because it's not good anymore. And I have good adhesive already, so why the hell should I be using that stuff? So you can honestly use your fingernail most of the time. I don't know why I'm not trying. I just recently cut my nails. This is the worst business to cut your nails in, by the way. You need nails. Nails are a necessity. So now, instead of picking it off in little pieces, you should just try to grab it all the way to where it touches the glass at one end, and then just peel it off like this, one piece, and toss it out. So once we have no adhesive on here, and none of the adhesive has been bunched up with the old dirt and old layers of crap, it's going to sit perfectly in there when we apply our new adhesive. And then we're going to have glass that never comes off, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want this shit to come off unless I'm sitting here with a heat gun and a spudger and removing it again. shit. If you've ever had this done and your glasses come off, you know exactly what step got skipped. Now on here, I remove every single last bit. On this, to be honest with you, you should really remove the layers, but you don't have to go and grab every single last bit of adhesive. Because again, to be honest with you, most places that do this are not even bothering to remove the adhesive from here or here. And they just put a new layer on. So by doing this, you're already ahead of the curve. So don't go nuts with it. Don't spend 45 minutes trying to get off every little piece of adhesive, only to wind up cracking your glass and needing a new one. Just get this crap off. And also, obviously, if you're using a metal tool, be cognizant of the fact that you're using a metal tool and don't stab at it. Now, this machine, very nice customer, very kind, polite, nice customer, but does not exactly take care of it in terms of keeping it clean. So we're going to do a little of that right here. I'm going to clean the glass off. I am reusing the old one since he only wants to pay for the LCD replacement. So I'm going to clean the old one off, clean the machine off a little so that he gets it back looking decent. Because he's a nice guy, he was polite, he was courteous, they deserve the extra work. Okay. It's down here. Push it. These are, I think, like vinyl or polyester clean room wipers. They're pretty good. Okay. Hopefully you're not a dumbass like me that winds up gluing the glass to the keyboard of the computer. So. Okay. Now, the adhesive. We sell this online. It's good stuff. It's about approximately 20 bucks a roll. You will use it for many, many repairs besides this one. Now when I would go right up to the webcam over here, make sure not to cover the flash or the lens. But I do want to make sure that that webcam is stuck in there to the point where it is not moving under any circumstance. The whole idea is I should be able to shake this fucking computer and beat it and tap it and smash it, and while smashing it still have perfectly stable video because my webcam is not moving. That is my goal. And there is a little metal bracket on the glass, but if you do your job right, that metal bracket can be disposed of and the webcam will still never move because it's held in place. That's what I go for. Now, even though this is good adhesive, you still should be pushing on it as you're applying it. Because if you don't actually push on it right now, it's not going to stick when you push the glass to it. Or it's going to stick to the glass, but it won't have been stuck to here. So go over it. This is what you have nails for. Okay, I just managed to misapply it. Such is life. Am I going to edit that? No. You're probably going to do that too. And wonder, who's the Superman that never makes mistakes with his adhesive? I'm not Superman. I'm just a regular dumbass, just like you. Just so happens to know how to fix a laptop. Okay. Got my adhesive on. my advice to you, if you happen to open a repair shop and you want a pet, you get a goldfish, get a cat, get something that doesn't squawk right behind your head incessantly. Unfortunately, I've come to love them far before I figured out how annoying they were, so I'm kind of stuck with them now, even though I'd like to kill them at times. Now, the webcam area is one of the areas where when you see amateur glass application, it usually starts to fall off, right over there. And it's because it's not, most people don't, they just go up to here and they stop, and then here and they stop. The way I keep mine from falling off is I tape all around the webcam. I don't do this big goppity-goopy gum. I just use the adhesive. I use a thinner roll over here. You can, or you can just cut up your thicker roll from X-Acto, and you're set. Now I'm gonna slide it up live chat right before I put this glass on. Gotta love multitasking. Got to love multitasking. That's the sound of my air compressor leaking since I fucked up the hose. Now, I'm going to blow this out. Now, I put this like this so that if you do have a very dusty workspace, and a long time ago I was used to working in nasty, dusty workspaces, you put it down and the magic here, the gravity, the junk falls onto the cover instead of falling onto the screen. I'm being trolled on live chat, which is why I'm continuing the video instead of going back to the live chat. I get trolled in my live chat all the time. Yes, you can keep trolling, I will keep working. And that's pretty much it. Except, see this? Yeah. The hinges are kind of fucked up. So, let's take a look at that next. Before that, go all the way around, like so. Oh, he's attacking informing me that I've stolen all of his screwdrivers. Make sure that this is adhesed on properly. What we're going to do now, so make sure that when you close it, by the way, that it falls asleep. It's an important one. is tighten the hinges. Fuck you. Now sometimes you can tighten them and they work again, and sometimes they need to be replaced. The way this usually works is if somebody comes in wanting them to be replaced, they just need tightening, whereas when somebody comes in and says, my hinges need to be tightened, they don't even have a hinge anymore, and their laptop is being held by a little piece of tape that they put where a hinge used to be. So there's a screw missing here, so not much I can do. But yeah, when people tell you that what they need, that's often not what they actually need. When they just tell you what their problem is, they will actually wind up having small problems. Just something that's semi-on topic to take note of. So. Take out these brackets right here. Also, I am doing this in the video for demonstration purposes, just for the record. I don't usually do this for free. So, I love it. This is completely broken. Yeah, such is to be expected with a 6-year-old laptop. Such is. Yep, 6 years old. Now, open it, place it over here, move this piece of, fuck you, tripod, come on, come on. Dude, seriously? Like the fucking Paris Hilton of tripods. Okay, come on, stay, good. Now there are two places the hinge can be loose. Over here, where it's screwed into the computer, or where it's screwed into the LCD assembly. Usually it's loose where it's screwed into the LCD assembly. Now I'm not just going to show you how to tighten the hinges, I'm going to show you how to actually align it with the computer. Tightening the hinges is easy. Making sure that the alignment with the computer is proper takes a little bit more effort. But if you're going to go through the effort of opening this entire thing, then you might as well go through the effort to just fucking align there as well. Okay. This piece is broken to shit. So this clutch cover is just going to kind of slide off here. Slide to the right, like this, and comes right off like so. Now, see how these are moving? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this back into the computer. Just one screw each. Keep it straight. This side I may have it straight here. I'm going to screw this in really hard. Look at me making fun of Paris. Now I'm going to close the computer. I want to make sure that these are actually a little more loose than they already are. There's 3 screws. There's 2 on this side and 1 on the other side for the hinges. Now once I've closed this computer, I kind of want to make sure that it's perfectly straight. And once I've gotten it perfectly straight and I'm holding it there, it's at that point that I tighten the hinges. I don't just tighten them And I have to open it. I want the hinges to be tightened in the proper place. I want it to be tightened after it's been aligned to where it's supposed to go. Open it. Top end. And while I'm here, because I'm a nice guy, yeah, this is why when like somebody's getting their battery done or replaced and they just look at me and they go, can you just tighten my hinges while I'm in there? I kind of look at them like, can you just clean my walk-in closet while you're dropping off the package at my apartment, FedEx man? Because it's pretty much the exact same thing that they're asking. They're kind of asking, can you just spend an extra inordinate amount of time and precision work doing this completely unrelated task just while you're here? Kind of. So as you can see, it's not like I'm just taking a screw to the outside of the laptop and going ding, ding, ding. There is a little bit of actual work involved. So, but yeah, this is one piece. There's another screw over here, but that piece is just so far gone and destroyed in this laptop that I'm not going to put it back in, just so that it can fall out and fall onto the motherboard and fuck something else up. There are usually two screws for this. And the purpose of this piece here is to hold the Wi-Fi, webcam, Bluetooth cable in place, and also for the speaker to have a place to screw into. Bless you. What the hell? He's a nice guy, so I'm gonna give him my other spare screw. I try to be nice to people who are nice to me. It helps make the world a little bit of a better place. Now I'm just being a little too nice, but so much crud builds up in these corners over time. See, this is why my dad told me you should always be, he was a chef, you'd always be nice to the people who are fixing your stuff and always be nice to the people who are making your food. Because are they going to make you your food or fix your stuff even if you're not nice to them? They are, but you're probably not going to get the little extra bits here and there that you get with your flight. You know, I have another 17 tickets that I have to get to before I leave today. And here I'm sitting wasting time with the Q-tip and alcohol on the innards of one guy's machine that he may never even notice, just because he's a nice guy. So, it does pay. Okay, now, you remember what the hinges looked like before, right? Nice try. Screw. Do this. It shakes, but it stops. Like when I touch it, shake, and then stop. And when I move it back and forth, it stays where it was. So with that said, I'm pretty much done.